the unsurpassed, profound, and glorious Dharma is rarely met with, even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. Good morning.
Good morning.
Excuse me. Okay. I'd like to begin with reading a passage from the Fukanzazengi that occurs near the end. You have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. Do not pass your days and nights in vain. You are taking care of the essential activity of the Buddha way. Who would take wasteful delight in the spark from a flintstone? Besides, form and substance are like the dew on the grass, and the fortunes of life like a dart of lightning, emptied in an instant, vanished in a flash. Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not doubt the true dragon. I think in order for us to even consider doing this practice, we need to have that awareness that we have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. I don't think that's necessarily a given for a lot of people. So we have to realize, and I think one of the key words here, and I've seen in all the translations that I've seen of the Fukanzazengi, the word pivotal is there. It's a pivotal opportunity of being in this human form. My first talk, I talked about the animal life and how it's different. Sometimes it seems animals, are happier than we are. And probably that's why we have pets, I'm thinking. However, we do have this self-consciousness as human beings, which also leads to our suffering and unsettledness. And those are the questions that, again, we've looked at on a couple of occasions, 2 or 3 occasions, of this, of these first sentences that Dogen offers to us, the first 8. It has to do with what Daigaku brought up yesterday, with the necessity for us to have these 2 conditions called faith and doubt, simultaneously existing together. So the faith sentence is, the way is originally perfect and all-pervading. We have to have that faith, even though maybe it's hard to believe. And the true vehicle is self-sufficient. Indeed, the whole body is free from dust. It is never apart from this place. So that's the faith. Then Dogen follows with the doubt, such as, how can it be contingent on practice and realization? How is that possible? That's the doubt. Or, what need is there to make any effort? And who could believe in a means to brush it clean, to rid ourselves of delusion, with all the, if you call clean, dirty. So who could believe in a means to get the dirtiness out of myself? And why do we have to travel here and there to practice if it's always right here in front of us? Why do we have to go places? Well, we do have to go places, go to different places. We have the examples of the 3 teachers right here in the Sesshin. Daigaku went to Japan, stayed there for 27 years. I think, is that the right number? Okay, 27. Raven was born in Germany, and I don't know all the circumstances that brought her to the US, but she stayed in San Francisco. And of course, I moved from Iowa to Minnesota. But it was necessary. I couldn't stay in Iowa and do this practice. I needed to be in an environment where there were other people doing this practice. I needed to be supported physically, emotionally, and mentally. Even though at times it was difficult, very difficult. But we need that support. That's why we travel here and there to practice, even though it's always right in front of us, wherever we are at every moment. So that's the faith and the doubt that Daigaku mentioned yesterday. He also mentioned a third thing, determination is necessary. for us to move forward on this path. And I believe that Dogen in this passage, in this Fukanzazengi, is trying to offer us a way to become very determined. So these things are the things we need to go forward, move forward on this path. There's also in the Nikayas things that we need to address that would hinder us. And there's some relationship, so I'll bring them up. It's chasing after sensual desires, trying to always get the things that feel the best food, the best music, the best this, the best that, trying to just try to get just this constant craving to satisfy our senses. It's ill will, harboring ill will. When this is happening, we can really feel ourselves lost. It's related to when Dogen says, if the least like or dislike arises, mind is lost in confusion. There's sloth and torpor. That, when I was younger, that was my favorite one, because it just felt like I was always, I'd get so tired. These days when I sit, I always have a fair amount of discomfort in particularly my knees and my legs. It's enough discomfort that I just don't get sleepy. So it's kind of helpful. So it's just enough pain there that, I'm just not going to fall asleep. Restlessness and worry is another thing. And doubt. Now that doubt is different from the other doubt that we were speaking of as a necessary ingredient. Through my Zen practice, I understood something that kind of drove me away from Christianity, at least one of the things. And I studied it pretty hard. I mean, I took it seriously. I was like one of the last teenagers to leave. I stayed with the church until I was 18. I sang in the choir, did all that. And even for 1 year in college, I switched my major to religion. It was a small Lutheran college in Minneapolis. But I really had trouble with this passage, which I think most of you are familiar with, whether you're Christian or not. So Jesus is nailed to the cross, dying. And he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I thought, man, I can't get interested in a religion that when you're dying, you're saying, I've been forsaken. That's it. I thought, you would know the answers. But it took a long time of Zen practice before I realized this is the faith and the doubt simultaneously arising. Because even there, while he's dying, he's doubting, but the faith is there. Why, God? Why, God? Why is this happening? So it also represents great, great faith. So look at another passage. Why leave behind the seat in your own home to wander in vain through the dusty realms of other lands? If you make one misstep, you stumble past what is directly in front of you. If you concentrate your efforts single-mindedly, that in itself is wholeheartedly engaging the way. Practice realization is naturally undefiled. Going forward is, after all, an everyday affair. So this question, why leave behind the seat in your own home to wander in vain through the dusty realms of other lands? For me, this passage is talking directly about us sitting in Zazen. Our Zazen is our home. There's a home in which we're naturally sitting with repose and joy. Why would we leave that home to wander around in dusty realms? And that's our wandering mind, thinking during Zazen. Thinking of, oh, I'd rather be doing this, or I'd rather be doing that, or about anything. But that's the wandering around in dusty realms. We're leaving our home. The home is right here, right now. And that's why we create this opportunity to just sit here in our home. If you make one misstep, you stumble past what is directly in front of you. So this practice is about just taking care of every moment that arises directly, what's in front of us. One of the koans we've been studying here at Hokyoji lately, past few months, is when the student approached his dying teacher and said, please tell me the teaching of a whole lifetime. And the teacher said, an appropriate response. So if we look back on our lives, can we see how many times we were not able to make an appropriate response? And that appropriate response, to make an appropriate response means we have to be present right in the very moment we are, not thinking about something else. A person comes to us, maybe they're complaining about something or asking a question, maybe we feel busy with other matters, but how do we make that appropriate response at that moment? That's very challenging and very difficult through the course of a lifetime. And that's what the student was asking. What's the teaching in the course of a lifetime? If you concentrate your efforts single-mindedly, that in itself is wholeheartedly engaging in the way. So just concentrating ourselves single-mindedly in this zazen, or whatever activity we're doing, is wholeheartedly negotiating the way. That's it, nothing more. Practice dash realization is naturally undefiled. It took me a really long time to grasp this concept of what Dogen uses through many of his writings is practice dash realization. One word. Well, I can't say I completely understand it, but I think I have a somewhat of an idea about it now. It's that we practice realization. We just practice it. It's not like we're practicing for realization. We're practicing realization right now. One activity. Practice is realization. It seems hard to grasp, but it is just practicing that this is awakening. This moment is awake. We're practicing that, even if we don't believe it. Even if we think there's something more, we're just practicing over and over again that this moment is full realization. We just continually practice that. Going forward is, after all, an everyday affair. So there's nothing special about this either. It's just our everyday life that we're meeting, our circumstances that arise. But it does say going forward. So there is an idea of moving forward. Moving forward is, after all, an everyday affair. However, he doesn't have a subject there. It just says going forward. And that works in English, but I also know a tiny bit of Japanese, and I know it's not necessary to have a subject in a sentence, whereas usually we have one in English. So there's no subject here. It's not like, for you to go forward is just an everyday affair. For me to go forward, it's just going forward, only, without a subject. It's not me going forward, it's just the going forward. Everyday affair, just the everyday things we do. Of course, in setting up a monastic community, we try to make those affairs not so complicated. Except they are. They become complicated. We have to fundraise. And for me, that's pretty complicated. I think it was complicated for Katage Roshi too. I heard a story once. I wasn't actually at the event or not part of a committee creating this event, but there were some people who had a little more financial resources than the rest of us in our community in the early days of Minnesota Zen Center. And I think they put a lot of effort into gathering up a small group of people who were quite well-to-do in the metropolitan area of the Twin Cities. Maybe not large, like 40 people, but these people were fairly well-to-do. You know, by their networking, they invited them to have this dinner, and it was a fundraiser. And Katage Roshi was the main speaker. And he probably talked about Zazen, doing Zazen. And I heard that somebody asked, well, what good is Zazen? What's it good for? Kanye responded, it's good for nothing. Suffice it to say, that fundraiser was not so successful in terms of raising money. Daigaku brought up the other day about the deer hunter. And around here, sometimes I get a little perturbed at deer hunters because we hear shotguns go off quite close to our land because they can legally hunt right next to us. But several years ago, I was here at Hokyoji, and I needed to go to La Crosse to buy some supplies. And I drove my pickup out, and on the way out, if those of you who have been here know, there's a horseshoe bend, and then you go up a hill toward the last 2/3 of the drive out. And much probably to the chagrin of a deer hunter who was sitting in a tree with my automobile, my truck driving by. I saw him, and probably, I'm guessing he thought, oh, well, I'm gonna have to wait here another hour because whatever deer were around were scared by the truck. But in any event, I noticed him sitting in that tree, and I don't know much about deer hunting, but the one thing I've been told that deer do not have a proclivity for looking up, to protect themselves. They're looking, side to side and straight ahead very diligently, but they don't look up. So that's why a lot of deer hunters sit in elevated stands or in trees above the vision pathway of deers. So he was in that tree sitting, and it was cold. It was a late November day, and it wasn't bitter cold, but it was like 20 degrees. He was sitting perfectly still. And then I went and did my shopping. It takes 45 minutes to get to the stores, and then I shopped for, I don't know, various things, maybe 2 hours, came back, maybe like 4 hours later, and driving in, he was sitting exactly in that same spot. Now, that was the image that created for me was he hadn't moved an inch in 4 hours. Because I saw him exactly in that same position when I left, and when I came back, he was exactly in that same position. So it was an illusion that he hadn't moved an inch in 4 hours. Probably he did. I just have to catch him at moments of stillness. However, I just realized that, wow, that's really deep zazen. It's out in the cold. And it can't be too comfortable sitting in a tree. So I really kind of gained more respect for deer hunters. I think it's the same with fishing. I'm not either a deer hunter or a fisher person, but I've heard stories, people been out, like a single guy went or a single person went out fishing. And they came back, they didn't have any fish. Or somebody would ask them, how many fish did you get? They said, oh, none. But it's this act, I believe, of just going out and being still in a natural surrounding that I think is that these people really get nourished from. And it's the same that we're doing. Many, many years ago at the Minnesota Zen, oh, I got to stop at 11:50, right? Or 10:50, yeah, okay, got it. Okay, sorry, I was thinking it was 11:05. Okay, so we're, sorry about that. Because we got to keep on schedule. That's a good thing about this Zoom stuff, that we have scheduled Dogen at a particular time. So we really have to stick to the schedule, or I do. Okay, so I got to finish up in about 2 minutes. So, okay, what should I say? Yeah, save that for another time. Let's just go back to where I began. You have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. Do not pass your days and nights in vain. Who would take wasteful delight from the spark of a flintstone? Maybe your zazen is beginning to settle down now. We've talked about how the first 2 days can be pretty rough. But after a while, your body, your mind begins to adjust to it, and we feel some settledness. We experience it. And we know this is, without explanation, that this is moving forward. But why take delight from the spark of a flintstone? Sometimes we can get a little happy at this point and just kind of do giddy little imaginations. I encourage you not to do that and just come back to just this sitting, paying attention to our breathing, being here in this moment. Know that form and substance are like the dew in the grass. That means our lives, our physical form, is gone in an instant. Just he uses the flash of a dart of lightning, emptied in an instant, vanished in a flash. That's our life. That's our life. We talk about breathing a lot in doing this practice. But let's really understand, let's really make an effort to understand, to be grateful that we can breathe. Especially, with our COVID situation, we hear over and over again about how it invades or attacks the lungs. And that's how people have been dying, they just can't breathe. So let's be grateful just that we can breathe in and out, and it's not hard for us who are here. Because someday, in an instant, it'll seem, we will not be able to breathe easily. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
May our intention equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are endless, I vow to freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible, I vow to kingdom. Dharma is our boundless, I vow to enter them. The I vow to realize that beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are